The controversy over what's happening at the U.S. border, it's made a lot of people obviously step back and assess what it means to be an American. And Time magazine is doing it this way. Their newest cover shows that now famous image of that young Honduran girl crying as the president towers over her. And the headline, simply, "Welcome to America." Joining me more, two of the minds behind this piece, this magazine, Carl Vick, the editor-at-large for Time, and Molly Ball, the magazine's national political correspondent. She's also a CNN political analyst. So thank you for both being with me. And Carl, I just want to start with you here. You know, we were talking to John Moore earlier this week, the Getty photographer who took this striking image of that little girl. And I want you to just tell me the story behind the story. Tell me how you came to this cover.
Well, one way or another, we were probably going to use that girl because she is sort of the iconic image, sort of the shorthand for everything. And then it was a matter of, you know, we call this a photo illustration, obviously. The president has never met her. But they just seemed to go together. Once you put them both on the cover in that dynamic, it captured a lot. And then it was a matter of what you say with it. And Welcome to America works.
Welcome to America and what this means to be an American. There are all these accompanying pieces, obviously, in this magazine. And so, Molly, I read yours, and you write about how, you know, this moment isn't just this test for Trump, but it's a reckoning for America. And since we know he thrives in chaos, you write, he thinks shock is a temporary condition, moral outrage is phony posturing, and that the American people can just be numbed to just about anything. It's hard to imagine that we would ever be numb to something like this, but do you think that there's any truth to the president's thinking?
I think what will test that is the long term, because what we have seen with Trump really since the campaign is he does or says something outrageous. There's a huge controversy that erupts and everyone gets really, really mad, and then something else happens,
there's a new bright,
usually
shiny
something
object
else that he has done. And, you know, I don't think that we in the media are wrong to react the way we do when each of these is a big deal, right? But people then move on. And his theory is if you just sort of wait out that wave of outrage, people will move on. This was an interesting crisis because you did see this universal condemnation, even from the Republicans in the House and Senate, who are usually somewhat docile, do what Trump tells them to do. Universal condemnation even from a lot of his own supporters in the evangelical community. And we saw him bow to that pressure somewhat. Now, the question will be, we don't actually know what this executive order is going to do. We don't actually know if those thousands of children and parents who've already been separated will ever be put back together. We don't actually know if where this is actually going is families held in camps for long periods of time. So the question is, the American people who are now so angry about this, and according to polls they are, will they just move on and start to accept that this is just something that we do when and if something else comes along?
Well, I was sort of struck into silence listening to Barbara Starr over at the Pentagon reporting that the military is preparing for, to house in facilities across the country, as many as 20,000 children and their families. If that is any, you know, harbinger of things to come and where we're going to go as far as the story is concerned. Carl, you know, you asked the question, what kind of country are we?
Right.
What's your answer?
Well, we know now, but the striking thing about this entire episode is that generally presidents tell us who we are. That's one of the jobs of a president, is to speak to our national principles and our ideals and our identity. And Trump doesn't talk like that. He doesn't use high-minded language. He doesn't speak of ideals. He doesn't echo the founders, which pretty much every president, certainly every great president, has done. He speaks only to his base. It's a really striking thing. I've been talking with, and you see in the story, experts on presidential rhetoric. And this episode is a case of the country telling the president what we're about and what kind of country we are. It's a role reversal, and it's really quite striking.
Well, it was interesting. You had what were the words in your piece? You know, you counted up, or I think someone had counted up how many times he's actually used the phrase, you know, human rights and other words like that, and it's not a high number.
It's not a high number. I mean, there's databases now. There's a database that has 5 million of Trump's words, and only six or eight or something, or does he say 6 or 8 times does he say human rights? Ronald Reagan at the same point in his presidency had said it like 4 times more than that, maybe 48 times. So 48 times altogether. So he simply is not high-minded.
Carl Vick and Molly Ball, thank you both so much.